I wasn't supposed to be in the office that late. The cleaning crew had already killed the hallway lights, and the building hummed with that eerie electric quiet that only exists after midnight. My screen glowed against the dark glass of the window, a floating reflection of someone who looked more tired than guilty. I wasn't guilty of anything. Not yet. The notebook was the only thing out of place. A slim black leather book, left half open on my boss's chair. The kind she always carried to meetings, filled with bullet points so sharp they could cut glass. I should have ignored it. But there was a page folded at the corner, and in a company like ours, curiosity isn't a flaw. It's survival. So I looked. The first line was written in blue ink, underlined twice. Fire him, and next to it, in parentheses, my name. No explanation, no context. Just two words that hit harder than a gunshot in the silence of that empty office. For a long minute, I didn't move. The air felt heavier, thicker. My own heartbeat was loud enough to hear. There were other names below mine, some crossed out, others checked, like a grocery list. But my name had a fresh mark beside it, a red arrow pointing down, and the date from yesterday. I closed the notebook halfway, then froze again. There was more. On the next page, metrics variance needs scapegoat before Q4 review. He's too quiet. No pushback? Easy exit. That's when I understood she wasn't just planning to fire me. She was building a story. 2 months earlier, I was her best employee. At least that's what she told the board when she needed someone to clean up the client churn fiasco. I'm the kind of guy who does the work quietly, without applause. No politics, no backroom gossip, just numbers, deadlines, and quiet competence. But in our office, competence doesn't win. Visibility does. And she, Monica Reed, Director of Operations, was a master of visibility. Always first to speak, last to take blame. She wore ambition like perfume. Heavy, expensive, impossible to ignore. It started small. My name disappeared from a few meeting invites. I shrugged it off. Then one morning I logged in to see that my dashboard metrics, the same ones I'd updated the night before, had been edited. Churn rates inflated by 3%. Error tags pointing to my account. I checked the logs. She'd been in my workspace at 11:47 p.m. Then came the coaching talk. A smile that didn't reach her eyes, her hands folded neatly on the table. "You've been slipping a little," she said. "Not in performance per se, more in presence. You seem detached." I'd been pulling 60-hour weeks. Detached was a new word for exhausted. When I left that meeting, I knew she was setting me up. That night, standing over her chair, the whole puzzle clicked. She needed a scapegoat before the quarterly review. Revenue variance on her portfolio was climbing. Someone had to carry it. Someone quiet, disposable, forgettable. Someone like me. But she made one mistake. She underestimated how carefully I watch people. Monica had a pattern, a rhythm to her sabotage. I'd seen her do it to others. A missing document here, a performance issue there. Always subtle, always deniable. The trick wasn't rage, it was documentation. So I took my phone, flipped to camera mode, and snapped 3 quick shots of the open pages. Then I put the notebook exactly where it had been and sat back at my desk like nothing happened. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even try. I opened a fresh spreadsheet and labeled it Backup Personal. Every file I'd worked on in the last 3 months, every timestamp, every version, mirrored to a private drive under a clean name. I cross-referenced every dashboard change with audit logs. The pattern was precise. Her edits always came within 24 hours of meetings with finance. By sunrise, I had 63 entries. The next day, I walked into the office with 2 coffees. One for me, one for her. I smiled, acted normal. "Late night?" I asked. She smiled back. "You have no idea." Over the next week, I started noticing the tells. Emails sent at 11 p.m. and deleted by 11:05. My projects reassigned to junior analysts for efficiency. HR pinging me for a casual check-in. But what haunted me most wasn't what I found in the notebook. It was what came after those words, on the following page, written in her tight, perfect handwriting. Vendor reconciliation, conceal comp variance. Personal travel coded as Q3 Savings Summit. Keep him off chain, fire before audit. That wasn't office politics. That was fraud. She wasn't just cutting me loose. She was burying me under her own paper trail. Friday came with an email titled Performance Discussion, Confidential. HR invite, 2 p.m. I'd seen enough of those to know they don't end with cake. At 1:59, I walked in calm. She was already there, smiling like a stage actress waiting for applause. HR sat across from us, laptop open. "Mark," she began, "we've had concerns about your output recently." I interrupted politely. "Before we go further, can I share a few documents?" A flicker, her smile twitched. I slid a thin folder across the table. Inside, printouts of her late-night edits, access logs, and one photograph, the notebook page, the one with my name. HR blinked, then looked at her. Monica's face went still. All color drained. I didn't raise my voice, didn't gloat. Just said, "You wanted transparency, so here's mine." The silence after that was long and fragile, like glass about to break. HR asked to reschedule for Monday. She agreed. No one looked at me when I left the room. That night, I sat in my car outside the office. Engine off. Rain ticking on the windshield. The city lights blurred like smeared ink. I replayed the meeting in my head. Every word, every breath. Then I opened my phone, scrolled to the photos of the notebook, and stared at the one line that started it all. Fire him. She wrote it like a command, like a wish, and I decided I was going to grant it. Just not the way she expected. Monday came with the same gray drizzle that had soaked through Friday night, the kind that makes the world feel washed out, temporary. My badge beeped at the security gate, still active, which meant she hadn't pulled the trigger yet. Good. That meant she was nervous. When I stepped into the office, Monica's door was shut. That was new. Usually she left it open so people could see how approachable she was. Through the frosted glass, I saw movement. Quick, tense, defensive. She was talking to someone on speaker. Her voice was sharper than usual, thinner. I didn't linger. I had work to do. I made myself small, invisible, and finished every task she'd left hanging. Updated the reports, cleaned up the project timelines, double-checked client invoices. By 11 a.m., I'd already sent her 3 status updates that left no room for criticism. Every number was perfect, every timestamp verifiable. If she wanted to fire me, she'd have to lie outright, and liars always leave fingerprints. Around noon, my Slack pinged. "Hey Mark, you have a sec to chat?" HR. The same HR manager from Friday. Dana. Calm voice, neutral tone, sharp as a blade. We met in a small glass cube near the elevators. She smiled, but it was the kind of smile people wear when they're stepping carefully through a minefield. "Mark," she began, "Monica shared concerns about your performance consistency." I didn't interrupt this time. I let her finish the script. She mentioned missed communication, project delays, team synergy, words that mean nothing and everything. Then she paused. "Do you have anything you'd like to share?" I opened my folder. This time I had tabs. Blue for metrics, red for logs, yellow for financial records. I placed it in front of her and said, "These show my deliverables for the last quarter, unaltered. You'll notice discrepancies only appear after her edits." Dana blinked. "After her edits?" "Access logs are on page 3. She flipped through silently. I watched her eyes move faster, then slow down. Her posture changed. No longer skeptical, just calculating. "Thank you," she said finally. "I'll need to verify these." Of course. I didn't push further. I stood, shook her hand, and left the room without looking back. By the time I sat down at my desk, Monica's door opened. Her gaze found me immediately. She smiled again, that corporate smile, polished and poisonous. "Everything all right?" she asked. Perfect, I said, and it was. For now. That night, I stayed late again. The office was empty except for the hum of servers and the faint buzz of the vending machine. I used the quiet to dig deeper. Every employee's project files were stored on a shared drive, monitored, logged, archived. Most people never looked at the metadata, but I did, and what I found confirmed what I'd begun to suspect. She'd been manipulating not just my metrics, but also the vendor reconciliation sheets tied to her department budget. Every few weeks there was an adjustment logged under her credentials. A small one, but always in the same direction. Payments coded as strategic savings, transfers bundled under nondescript subcategories. At first glance, they looked routine, but when I cross-referenced them with actual vendor invoices, I found the missing pieces. One vendor kept reappearing, Ravenshore Consulting, a ghost company, no website, no LinkedIn presence, nothing but a mailbox in New Jersey. And yet they'd billed us for operational analysis 4 times this quarter. Each invoice, identical format, identical amount. And in the comments section of the payment request, I found her initials. MR. The next morning she acted lighter, brighter, like the storm had passed. She made jokes in the team chat, complimented my report, even brought donuts. Classic misdirection. When she was scared, she performed kindness. But I noticed the tremor in her hand when she poured her coffee. I noticed her closing her laptop the moment I walked by. She knew something had shifted. She just didn't know how much. At lunch, I got another message, this time from a name I didn't recognize. Hi, Mark. This is Adrian from Ravenshore Consulting. Just confirming that Q3 data looks good on your end. We've uploaded the latest variance sheet. He shouldn't have known my name, or that I handled variance sheets. I stared at the message for a long time, then forwarded it, quietly, to my personal email. Over the next 2 days, I collected everything. Screenshots, timestamps, the works. Each night, I saved them into a private drive labeled Archive Euro 2 HR. By Thursday, the pressure in the office was thick enough to taste. She avoided my eyes. HR avoided hers. People whispered in the kitchen, sensing the quiet fracture running under the surface. Then, late that afternoon, Dana from HR messaged again. We'll need a follow-up tomorrow morning. Please bring any supporting materials. That was corporate language for, we're ready to talk about your boss? That evening, I decided to push one step further. I opened Monica's public calendar. She always left it visible to look busy, and saw an entry that didn't fit her pattern. Vendor strategy, offsite, 7 p.m. It was at a private lounge downtown. Listed guest, A. Greer, Ravenshore. I didn't have to guess who that was, so I went. I didn't approach them, didn't need to. I sat at the far end of the bar, drink untouched, watching. She was laughing too loud. The man across from her was older, slick suit, expensive watch. They looked more like co-conspirators than colleagues. When she leaned in, he slid an envelope across the table. She didn't open it there, just tucked it into her purse and smiled. 5 seconds. That was all it took. I snapped one photo, just enough to confirm the meeting happened. Then I left. Back home, I laid everything out on my kitchen table. Laptop open, documents spread like playing cards. The evidence was neat, precise, unshakable. She'd rerouted budget funds through Ravenshore, hidden the trail under my cost center, and was about to fire me to close the loop. I stared at the folder until the clock hit midnight. Then I composed one email. No anger, no adjectives, addressed to HR compliance. Subject: documentation for financial review, department operations. Body: please find attached relevant files for your internal audit. All timestamps verified. Let me know if additional context is needed. Attachments: 14 PDFs. Send. The next morning, the office felt colder. She arrived late, eyes red behind her makeup, pretending confidence. When I greeted her, she didn't answer. At 10:30, her phone rang. HR. She froze, listening. Then quietly she said, "Of course, I'll be right there." Her heels clicked across the floor, sharp, uneven. She didn't look back. When she returned an hour later, she was pale. No smile this time. No sound at all. She walked straight to her office and shut the door. At noon, HR messaged me again. "Mark, could you step into Conference 3A at 1 p.m.? Compliance will join us." I didn't know yet what they'd found, but I knew it was enough. At exactly 12:59, I walked in. Monica was already seated. Dana was beside her, laptop open. Another woman, compliance lead, maybe legal, sat across from them. The air was razor thin. Dana looked at me. "Mark, thank you for coming. We'll keep this brief." She turned to Monica. "We've reviewed your documentation and marks. There are inconsistencies in the financial reports and access logs. We'll need a deeper audit." Monica's voice cracked. "Wait, you're believing him over me?" Dana didn't answer. The compliance lead slid a document across the table. A printed log of every file Monica had altered. Red ink. Her initials. Her timestamps. The room went silent. Finally, Dana said, "Mark, please wait outside while we continue." I stood. Monica didn't look up. As I reached the door, I heard her whisper almost to herself, "This isn't happening." But it was, and I wasn't done yet. The hallway outside Conference 3A felt colder than the room I'd just left. I could still hear muffled voices through the glass. Dana's calm professionalism, Monica's rising panic, the slow, deliberate rhythm of the compliance officer's questions. Each word that leaked out was another nail tightening around her carefully built image. I didn't linger to listen. I didn't need to. The evidence spoke louder than I ever could. I sat in the lobby, staring at my reflection in the black glass of the company directory. I looked normal, calm, maybe too calm. But inside, there was this sharp, humming clarity, the kind you only get right before a thunderstorm. It's a strange thing, realizing someone tried to ruin you and failed. You expect triumph, but what you feel is something colder, like justice. They called me back, and 40 minutes later, the conference room smelled like coffee gone stale and panic trying to hide behind perfume. Monica's face was tight, pale. Her lipstick had cracked at the corners. Her hands were clasped so hard her knuckles were white. She didn't look at me, just stared at a spot on the table, like if she blinked, she'd fall through it. Dana's tone was calm. "Mark, we're continuing a broader review. In the meantime, we've asked Monica to take a temporary leave of absence." Leave of absence. Corporate language for "you're one step from fired." Monica finally spoke, voice shaking just slightly. "You think this was me? These invoices, these logs, they could have been altered." The compliance officer, a woman named Grace, adjusted her glasses. "They weren't. Our IT forensics confirmed the access trail. It's all under your credentials." Grace turned to me. "Thank you for your cooperation, Mark. We'll contact you if we need clarification." I nodded, polite, silent. Then I walked out, one measured step at a time. Behind me, Monica's voice cracked again, higher this time, pleading, "You're making a mistake." The door shut before I could hear the rest. Mas, that should have been the end. But people like Monica don't just crumble quietly. They rewrite the story. That night, I received a message from her personal number. No greeting, no apology, just one line. "You don't understand what you've done." I didn't reply. I didn't have to. The truth was already out, and every minute she tried to fight it only made the wound deeper. Still, I couldn't shake the unease. Something told me she wasn't done, that there was still one more layer under all this. Over the next week, the office shifted like it was learning how to breathe again. People whispered in the kitchen but avoided my eyes. I could feel the tension ripple whenever I walked by. Respect, fear, curiosity. No one said it out loud, but they all knew. HR sent out a memo about internal audit transparency. Compliance conducted interviews. The servers were locked down, email backups restored. Then one morning, Grace called me into our office. Close the door, Mark. I did. She looked tired, the kind of tired that comes from knowing too much. I wanted to update you personally. We confirmed a pattern in the financial discrepancies you reported. Ravenshore Consulting isn't an approved vendor. It's a shell. I kept my voice steady. And the funds? Redirected. We traced roughly $78,000 in misallocated payments, all routed through Ravenshore, then transferred to an account belonging to someone named A. Greer. The name hit like a note of déjà vu. The same man she met at the lounge, I said quietly. Grace raised an eyebrow. You saw them? Yeah. Thursday night. I didn't interfere, but I took a photo. Good, she said. I'll keep that. It corroborates the timeline. She leaned back, studying me. You handled this the right way, Mark. No noise, no retaliation. That's rare. I wasn't after revenge, I said. Just survival. Maybe, she said, but it looks a lot like integrity. Later that day, HR scheduled one final meeting. Not with her, but with me. The entire senior management team was there. Polished smiles, rehearsed sympathy. They praised my professionalism under pressure. Offered to expand my role during transition. Translation: we want to promote you into the seat she just vacated. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I asked, what happens to her? Dana's expression softened. Termination is pending. She's cooperating with investigators. Apparently, she told them she didn't mean for it to go that far. I almost laughed. That's the thing about guilt. It always hides behind intention. I told them I'd think about the promotion, but when I left the room, I knew my answer. That night, I stopped by my apartment, opened my laptop, and stared at the folder labeled Backup Personal. For weeks, that folder had been my lifeline, proof that I wasn't crazy, that the truth existed. But now, I didn't need it anymore. I selected all 63 files, hovered over Delete, and paused. Then I dragged the folder into an encrypted archive and renamed it Fire Him, just in case. The next morning I came in early, the way I used to before all this started. The sun had barely risen, the city still half asleep. The office was empty except for the cleaning crew. Her office door was open. The desk was bare except for one cardboard box and a single personal item left behind, the black leather notebook. I walked in slowly, picked it up. The cover was warm from the light spilling through the window. Inside, the pages were mostly blank now. The last thing she'd written was a list of names. All the people she'd tried to cut before me. Next to each one, check marks, notes, reasons. Next to my name, nothing. Just a blank space. That same day, HR made it official. She was terminated effective immediately for gross misconduct and falsification of financial data. The statement was clean, sterile, corporate. But everyone knew the real story. Her badge was deactivated at noon. Security escorted her out quietly, avoiding the main floor. But I saw her through the glass as she passed the lobby. Pale, rigid, jaw tight. She didn't look angry anymore, just lost. For a second our eyes met through the glass. She stopped walking. The guard hesitated, waiting. Her mouth moved. I couldn't hear the words, but I could read them easily. I didn't mean it. Then she looked down and kept walking. That night, I got a call from an unknown number. A man's voice. Calm, professional. Mr. Langford, this is Adrian Greer. I think we should talk. I almost smiled. I think we already have. Silence on the line. Then a click. He hung up. I stared at my phone, then at the city lights beyond my window. The storm was over, but I could still hear the echo of her handwriting, the blue ink that started everything. Fire him. Wish granted. They say revenge feels like victory. It doesn't. It feels like silence, the kind that hums in your bones after everything collapses. When Monica left, the office changed overnight. The air got lighter, the fake smiles faded. People worked again. No one said her name, but her ghost was everywhere, in the empty office, the untouched desk, the faint trace of her perfume that refused to leave the hallway. I thought I'd feel relief, maybe even triumph. Instead, all I felt was stillness. A week later, Dana called me in again. She was calm, kind, even warmer than usual. "Compliance finished their review," she said. "It's official now. Monica's actions weren't just misconduct. They were criminal. Fraud, embezzlement, falsification of records. The vendor confirmed she took kickbacks." I nodded slowly. "Ravenshore? Dissolved. The man you mentioned, Adrian Greer, is under investigation. It turns out he wasn't just a contact. He was her conduit. They found personal payments, travel reimbursements, even a joint account. She'll probably face charges." I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. Dana studied me. "I know this has been a lot, but I want you to know everyone here noticed how you handled it. Quietly, professionally. The board wants to offer you her role, interim director of operations, starting next week." I should have felt proud, but I just asked, "Do you want my honest answer?" She smiled. "Always." "I don't want her office," I said, "or her chair. I just want my peace back." Dana tilted her head, thoughtful. "You know, that might be the healthiest answer I've ever heard." I left that meeting lighter than I'd felt in months. But fate has a sense of humor. That afternoon, while clearing out my desk, my phone buzzed with an email from an unknown sender. Subject line, "Offer, confidential." It was from Cobalt Group, the parent company that had been auditing our financial systems during the investigation. They'd seen the reports I compiled, the precision, the evidence, the way I'd documented everything. They wanted me to head a compliance division. Better pay, cleaner slate, no ghosts. I stared at the screen for a long time, then typed 2 words. "I'm interested." My last day came quietly. No speeches, no farewells. I didn't tell most of the team I was leaving. They'd find out soon enough. Before heading out, I stopped by her old office. The cleaning crew had finally emptied it, except for one thing, her leather notebook. Someone had placed it neatly in the center of the desk, like a tombstone. I stood there for a while, the sunlight creeping across the pages. Then I opened it one last time. Most of the notes were gone now, ripped out. Only a few lines remained, faint indentations of pressure where her pens once pressed too hard. You could almost read the ghost of her handwriting. Targets, accountability, visibility. But one line deep in the corner was still intact. "People forget who gave them their chances." I traced the words with my thumb, closed the book, and placed it gently on top of the empty desk. "No," I murmured almost to myself. "They just remember who took them away." Then I left it there. A month later, I started my new job at Cobalt. Different city, cleaner skyline, no whispers in the corridors. I'd traded chaos for quiet, and for once, it felt right. My new office overlooked the harbor, the kind of view that makes even silence feel expensive. On my second day, I got a package with no return label. Inside was a single sheet of paper, handwritten. "You won, Mark. Hope you're proud." No name, but I didn't need one. The handwriting was unmistakable. Neat, deliberate, carved into the paper like it hurt to write. At the bottom, a faint water stain. Maybe a tear. I folded it once and placed it in my drawer. I wasn't proud. Just finished. 3 months later, the news broke. Former operations director pleads guilty to fraud charges. Her photo was everywhere, the same poised smile she used in meetings, now sitting under the weight of a headline she couldn't spin. The article said she'd accepted a plea deal, community service, restitution, professional ban, no jail time. Privilege finds its parachute. But what caught me wasn't the verdict. It was the photo. She was walking out of the courthouse, clutching that same leather notebook. Her eyes were red, not angry, not defiant, broken. The reporter captioned it, "Former executive leaves court in tears." I closed the article, didn't share it, didn't celebrate. Sometimes karma doesn't roar, it whispers. 6 months later, I returned to the old city for a conference. Same skyline, same streets, same building. Out of curiosity or weakness, I walked past my old office. Through the glass, I saw new faces, new smiles. Life had moved on without us, as it always does. Outside by the steps, a woman sat on a bench with a coffee cup clasped between trembling hands. I almost didn't recognize her. Hair shorter, makeup gone, eyes hollowed by months of whatever life had done to her since. She looked up. Recognition flickered. "Mark," she whispered. I stopped. "Monica!" We stared at each other for a few seconds. No hostility, no anger, just silence. She broke it first. "I thought if I pushed hard enough I'd win." I nodded. "You did. For a while." Her eyes glistened. "They took everything." "You gave it to them," I said softly. She looked down at her coffee, then smiled. A small, bitter, human smile. "Guess I got what I wished for." "Guess so." I wanted to walk away, but she added barely above a whisper, "I wasn't crying that day because I got caught. I was crying because I realized what you did." I frowned. "What's that?" "You didn't destroy me. You just showed them who I really was. That's worse." I didn't answer. There was nothing left to say. I just nodded once, turned, and walked away. Outside, the air was clean. One of those rare spring mornings where the city smelled almost new. I looked up at the sky, the kind of blue you only notice when you finally stop fighting. The world moved on. So did I. Somewhere behind me, a woman who once wrote "Fire him" was learning what it felt like to be erased by her own handwriting. And for the first time in a long time, I smiled. Not out of vengeance, out of peace.